Now that we have all of our products displayed on our home page, we want users to be able to go to the individual product page and see additional detail about the product so that they can make a decision about it and see whether they want to add it to their cart and check out ultimately. So let's begin by seeing how to fetch an individual product whenever we go to an individual page according to its ID. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is grab the product ID from the route that we're on and see how to pass it to a request to tell our API, hey, grab this product with this particular ID. So to grab the ID from our route, first of all, we're going to need to head into the appropriate page, and that is the product page. And we can use a specific React hook that React Router DOM provides called useParams. And it gives us an object, and since we specified the dynamic route parameter on our routes within app, we named this product ID, we should have a property on this object that exactly corresponds to it. So this is how easily we can get product ID. And next we need to make a request to our API. So before we make that request, we can go to our routes file within server and make another route. But before we do that, let's extract this function, this callback function for our products endpoint into a separate function which we'll call getProducts. We're going to place all of these specific callback functions or controllers for our routes directly underneath. And we can refactor this to have it be a normal named function called getProducts, and I'm going to make this a function declaration. So for our next route, which we can place underneath, we can call this getProducts, but we'll add another / and include the very same parameter for our individual product route as well. To get an individual product, we can include the product ID in the endpoint that we make our request to. So that allows us to very easily pass along the ID of the product with our request. And the handler here, the controller here, is going to be called getProduct. Again, we're going to have request and response. But here, just like for our route, we're going to need a way to get the parameter from it. That too has a very convenient way to access it. Here in Express, there's a convenient way to grab it from the request. So finally, we're using the request object from the data that we get when we make a request to this endpoint. We have on our request object a params property that is likewise an object. And from that, we can get a property called product ID because that's exactly how we named it. And we can put that in a separate variable called product ID. And instead of writing it in this fashion, we can actually use object destructuring, and it achieves the same result. So we're getting product ID from our request parameters. Now to get our product according to its ID, all we have to do, since we're dealing with static data here, is we can just take products and use the find method to find for each product the one whose ID is equal to the product ID provided in the request, and that's going to give us our product, which we'll then send back to the user. And once again, we can use respond with status 200 that this was successful, and on this JSON object that we send back, we'll just have the property product. Then we can save this, and to test this out, we can take a valid ID from one of our products and just go to localhost 3001/API/products/ and then include the product ID at the end. And we should get the exact product data that we're looking for.